Okay, so welcome to a new lesson. Today is lesson 2, and we will be talking about how to say no without seeming selfish. So, what kind of person are you when it comes to that? When I think back that I used to be a people's pleaser, and in the end, that didn't feel very good because I was so afraid to say no. I was so afraid to hurt others. I was so worried that if I'm not going to do something for somebody, they're not going to like me. So in the end, we only say yes to everything is because we want to have approval. And that we need to change. So when we were growing up, I don't know how, if you remember, you were always kind of told that you need to put other people's needs first. Don't be selfish. Only, kind of only think about the others. But that's not really the truth or the case, because in the end, you also have needs and you're also important. So if it's always about somebody else, it will never be about you. So the word no is one of the most difficult to use, since it's just something because you feel like you disappoint somebody, you let somebody down. It just doesn't feel good to say no. I've been there very much. I'm much more a person to say yes to whatever I can. But then I realized for my own mental health, for my own emotional health, it was very, very important to learn to actually say that word. And something very interesting happened. This was my personal realization, that the more I said no, the more I was respected for saying no. So at first I thought I'm going to lose people, I'm going to hurt them, I'm going to disappoint them. And then suddenly I realized that it's actually the opposite. They respect you more, which is, think about that. You have to just start doing it and it actually takes some bravery as well, if you're the kind of person who has a hard time saying no. So in this lesson today, we have a few exercises. But first of all, if this is difficult a subject for you, then there is on that workbook list, which is this one, how to say no without hurting others. So there are some suggestions of what you could say when it's hard to say no. So for example, first of all, when somebody approaches you with, I need your help. If somebody constantly needs help can be kind of a word which very easily puts you into having a hard time saying no, right? So we have to, find a way to really set our boundaries with how we approach these kind of situations. So for example, if it's uncomfortable to say no to something, like in point 1, it says, let me think about it. Let me check my schedule and get back to you. So, it's totally okay, because not saying no right away is also okay, but let me think about it and giving that time, go into that feeling. How does it feel to say that? And then I can't do that today. Perhaps you can approach to help you with that. So you can maybe ask them to ask somebody else to help. So if that would be easier for that person to help. Because in the end, yes, I get to that point afterwards. And then, for example, you can say, thanks for inviting me, but I have plans already, sorry. So if somebody wants you to do something, but then you say, thanks for inviting me to help you, but I already have something else going on, so sorry. How about, I can't do that right now, but I can show you how you can do it yourself. So that's a very good thing as well. I can show you how you can do it yourself. So in that way, you are still helpful, but you're not doing something for the other if you don't feel it's right and appropriate in that moment. I'm extremely busy this week. Can it wait until next week? So these are ways of saying something instead of saying no, because you still want to be respectful, you still want to help the people in some way or another. But in the end, it's really about that you don't feel used for something. So you don't want that somebody just takes advantage of you, especially if you are a person who easily says yes. So on the saying no for good mental health. That's that one. I have been filling out something as well. I need to say no and set boundaries when. So in which situations do you have to actually set those boundaries? So for me, I must say I'm a different person now than when I was younger. So I can give you two examples. So when I was young, I would have a hard time saying no. For example, if somebody asked me, can you just get me this thing over there? And then I thought, especially in the family, then I thought like, oh, maybe somebody else could do that. I mean, not somebody else, but they can do it themselves. So they can just do it themselves. So why would I, just, for me, it was really hard time. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to get this. And so I'll be in peace. But in the end, these are not situations where you want to be saying no, but it's more like, yeah, can you just not get it yourself? But then you don't want to hurt. So if I have the feeling that somebody is taking advantage of me, if somebody really uses that yes saying thing. So that's what I learned from when I was young, that I would always say yes just because to be in peace. And then when I grew older, I realized, no, it's okay, it's actually noticing that you feel that you're being taken advantage of. So we stop being taken advantage of. And that's, of course, coming back to the first lesson, where you have to be in touch with your body and with your mind so that you know when this is happening. So then in the second point, how can I say no in the above situations with minimum guilt or discomfort? So I can do this right now, but or I can't do this right now, but I can, do it later. Or how can you do this yourself? I mean, I'm sure it's not a big deal. Somehow I think parents do this a little bit to their kids. They send them around. I notice myself doing that because I'm sitting here comfortable, like, oh, can you just get me something from the kitchen? And when I was a kid, I didn't like this at all. So I'm trying to not my kids sending around, because it's also for them very hard to say no. But then if there's a balance where we help each other out, where they sometimes ask for something and they just don't want to get up, and then I feel like, okay, now I can also help, so it's a little bit about finding that balance as well. So in point 3 is, what are my biggest fears when I say no to the situations in question 1? So what are my biggest fears? I mean, mine have always been to hurt somebody, and what I mentioned earlier, because of that, not being liked or not feeling approved. I think that is like a deeper problem. On the surface, it feels like, yes, I don't want to hurt somebody, but on the other hand, why do you not want to hurt somebody? Because it goes deeper. Because you feel like if that person is hurt, then you get hurt because they don't kind of like you anymore. So in point 4, it's about how valid are these fears on a scale of 1 to 10 and why. So how valid are they really? So I used to think that I'm disappointing people and that's it. So it's a valid fear. But like I mentioned earlier, I learned that I gain more respect if I do that. So I think it's worth going through the process and then writing this down, like I need to say no and set boundaries when, and then how can I say no, and then what are my biggest fears, and then how valid are these fears. So going through that and pondering a little bit about it will also give you an opportunity to get to know yourself a little bit better and help you set these boundaries and help you find your own way, the way you think things should be. So yeah, it's not about like being selfish and I have only my space. It's still nice to help, but it's also very important to help yourself by saying no sometimes when it's necessary. Good. So I hope this helps to get a few new ideas about how you can get especially your mental emotional self-care going. And if there are any thoughts, please comment. Thank you and have a great day.